My friends, it happened. Let me show you. I hit level 70. Actually, level 71 at this point, because I had to level up some characters and use some stamina, blah, 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 blah. If you saw the challenge video, you know what I'm talking about. But that means I can now do the level 7 and 8 personas, and I'm going to wrap the level 8 personas in this video because there's 2 of them for now. So there's not a big reason to make a whole separate video for all of 2 personas. We're going to cover them all today. And something to kind of note is there will be more personas that come out over time with different various patches. I'll cover those personas as they come out. Right now, I didn't want to necessarily try to bombard you with information on things that you might not even have for months and months to come, but we'll get to them when they get here, so it's not too big of a deal. And with that, as we get started, I am trying to hit 10,000 subs this year. So if you'd like to be a part of that community, please just drop down below a like and a sub, and yeah, we'll get there together. So let's talk about these personas. I'm going to the compendium here and filter away. So let's grab a rank 7 and 8. There's actually not a lot. So it's, one double page here of 7s and a couple on page 8 to start. And kind of as always, if you're looking for just a damage type persona, there's nothing wrong with just picking your best one here and leveling them up, helping you get through things like Velvet Trials and, things where you just need that extra coverage. But what I want to talk about today are some of the most notable ones that you're going to want to focus on building. And you can see one that I've already picked here. It's the only one I've even gotten so far. And I'm going to lead off with what I think is probably the most important persona in all of this grouping, and that's Dionysus. So Dionysus, there's a reason that everybody is using him in the end game, and it has a lot to do with his passive up here, his innate, whatever you want to call it. And so if I just pick this all the way to 3, increase critical rate by 14.8%. So of course that's, going to your wonder. But when using a skill on an ally, increase main target's critical damage by 30% for 2 turns. Now, obviously the base value is lower, but you do want to kind of get your endgame personas fully maxed out over the span of time. It's not going to be something you do in a day unless you're burning a ton of stamina. But this is just fantastic. We've talked in other videos about how important critical damage and critical rate is, and he's going to be giving you critical damage. Additionally, he comes pre-equipped with Revolution, which is the party crit increase. And I think myself and almost every creator out there is probably going to recommend that you put Rebellion, the single target version of Revolution or of crit rate increase, into him as well. So he is going to become your primary endgame crit buffer. Now that doesn't mean you'll never use the other ones you built, like Succubus or the guy that I love that I always forget the name of, but the one I'm using currently. And that is because in things like Guild Trials, you still want to buff people's crit. And so someone like a Succubus is still valid in the endgame, crazy enough that she is a rank 2. But this is going to be the one you use for your biggest team, the one you're going to have with you most of the time. He really is just an amazing endgame unit. And for his other skills and passives down here, this is where in the end game you end up subbing out a lot of powers. So you may not necessarily need to use his, side attack here. And so there might be fights where you are putting like, a Rakunda in here or a Tarukaja and just kind of customizing the skills more. And so when you look at these endgame personas, you're looking at how good is their innate ability up top and how good is their, main skill that you can't get rid of. Everything else you can sub out, and so you don't really tend to worry as much about these, and you start customizing them. But just know that this is probably your top priority, and when you hit level 70, it's not going to hurt your account at all to start looking at getting at least your first copy going. You'll see I've already broke through once. I used one of those little items you can use to break through your personas, and I instantly gave it to him because I know how important this particular persona is. So don't sleep on Dionysus. He is probably your best persona and one of your most used ones, just period, once you hit endgame. Now, as far as the next 2, we've got Quetzalcoatl and we've got Siryu. I know you guys are going to correct my pronunciations in the chat. I actually appreciate that you guys do that. So feel free to drop down below and tell me how badly I'm butchering these names. But these 2, nothing really notable to me. I'm going to build every persona, or at least unlock every persona, I should say, for the sake of Wonder's skill points. But these are 2 I don't necessarily think I'll build up. You could maybe put this one, Quetzalcoatl, into a Fleuret team for now when you get the Palace 3 dagger, just to trigger the wind first slot persona qualification. But otherwise, there's nothing like super special here that really tickles my fancy. But Thor becomes a good one. So Thor is going to be for your electric team. So think about Yui if you pulled her. And so his passive, increased crit damage, again, this is for Wonder. And then when allies use electric skills, Resonance or Highlights, so Resonance is like Yui's follow-up, gain 1 Thunderlord's Majesty, 3 stacks total that you can get. After dealing electric damage and Thunderlord's Majesty is at 3 stacks, increase all foes' electric damage taken 8% and electric crit damage taken 12% for 2 turns. That's a mouthful. I said so much there. Basically, when you're hitting with electric, he's building up stacks, and then he increases your electric damage and crit damage, which is fantastic. So great for someone like a Yui. If you're having to run Closer as a primary damage dealer, maybe for a Velvet Trowel, it would work there. And then later down the road, of course, you'll get other Thunder users like Akihiko. His main ability here is just a electric damage. It's an AoE. And then when Thunderlord's Majesty reaches 3 stacks, it has a chance to inflict shock. So if you're trying to use, your Wonder to help inflict shock, you can use this. But for something like a Yui team, you might actually use him and Eurlinger, the one that you might have seen from one of my other videos, and actually run them both on your team. Wouldn't be uncommon to see that. So he's a really good one for your electric teams specifically. Then we get into Yamada no Orochi. Again, another one where he kind of sounds cool on paper. I just don't see a ton of use for them. You can inflict freeze, but I think kind of triggering it isn't the easiest thing always. And as much as he is a pain to fight against in the Metro, I just don't see a lot that he brings to teams. So another one I'll unlock, but we'll probably skip as far as building. But for anyone who pulled Queen, Bishamonten is your guy. This is the one, and it takes these special coins that you can only get every couple of weeks by completing your trials. He is one that will absolutely be there for your Queen. If you saw the Queen guide, we probably talked about him. And so again, he's increasing crit rate for Wonder, but then when using a skill on a foe, increase main target's nuke damage taken 8% per elemental ailment, max of 3 stacks. So when you're running your Queen team and you've got, say, Vino or even just Queen herself, adding these elemental ailments, he's just going to come through and add in more and more damage. And basically just switch over to him. You trigger him, with a skill. You could use a Racunda, you can use, this Imperial Purge, whatever you want. And it's going to trigger this effect. So he is the one that you're going to want to put on your Queen team for that nuke damage. I wouldn't say he's necessarily used anywhere else, but he does become like the best in slot for Queen right now. So he's one to build. And you do have to consider your coins and how many you're going to use because they are very limited. But I'll tell you for myself personally, this is the first pickup I'm getting, is him. So once we get through the next cycle, I'll have enough to actually get him. For Nibiros, the only thing that's really notable on this particular persona is they do have Debilitate. And Debilitate is decrease of attack, defense, ailment accuracy, and ailment resistance. The issue on this one is it's a lower percentage. And I would personally prefer to have, like, say, a Racunda and decrease the defense by a higher amount than worry about all this other stuff. So it sounds nice, and I know if you're a traditional Persona user, you look forward to having Debilitate on your characters, but in this particular situation, I would just rather decrease their defense significantly more than also decrease these other things, which is why I don't really necessarily recommend it. And the rest up here for her innate, you're probably just not going to ever sit on her to make this all that valuable, so I don't think she is one I would prioritize in. And then Oberon, same kind of thing. He's not one necessarily I would put a lot of attention into. He has this effect where he's increasing electric damage and such, but this is for Wonder. So as far as I'm aware, this does not apply to the team, and you're not really going to be using Wonder for the DPS side, so I'd rather just have Thor and Eurlinger when I'm running, say, a Yui team. That said, our next It Costs Tokens is King Frost. King Frost is going to be for your Fox teams. He is going to be, just like Bishamonten was for Queen, he is for Fox, and he becomes your main slot. And he just does so many great things for Fox. So first of all, he, after shielding an ally, increases that main target's defense 18%, or increase ice damage for 10% for 2 turns. And your main target just means who do you click on? So you click on Fox to make him the main target. And then Snow King's protection Grant a shield to party equal to 21.7% of user's attack, plus 538 for 2 turns, while shielded increase defense by 30%. And remember, Fox builds and scales off of defense, not attack. So King Frost is just a great shielding / buffing unit, specifically for your Fox team and Fox himself. And he also has the Auto Maraku for the start of battle, which is going to increase party defense by 14.7% for 2 turns. So you're kind of walking in the door with a buff. It's a really hard choice if you've pulled both Fox and Makoto on who your coins should go to first if you're going to spend them. I still think Bishamonten is the better one, but there is not a single part of me that doesn't want King Frost as soon as possible. Next, we have another great one, Dominion. This is another guy to build. He is going to be good for a couple things. So first of all, he is Bless. And if you're going to be pulling, say, Summer Closer, he's a good first slot in for Summer Closer once you get the Palace 3 dagger. And otherwise, he's still useful for buffing. So if I look at Angel's Command, increase Wonder's attack. When using a skill on an ally, gain 2 commandment. When allies deal skill damage, spend 1 commandment to increase that skill's damage by a percentage. And so, if I go to, say, his fully maxed out piece here, that gets to be, let's see, by 6.4% and damage by 15%. So basically at a fully overclocked Dominion, you get to juice up the attack and the damage of whoever you've applied a skill to. So that effect is not just for Blessed characters, that's for anybody. You can put that on Ryuji. Cohesion, their kind of signature skill here, increase the party's attack, which is going to then trigger Angel's Command for 2 turns, and for every 500 points of the user, increase it even further, so it's just a really solid attack buff. And then increase the main target's damage by 7.6% and increase damage by a certain amount more for every 500 of the user's attack, Wonder, up to 8%. So this here is just a ton of attack up and a ton of extra damage for whoever you click on. So, a good example of this would be maybe you have him in your Ryuji team. You click on Cohesion, you click Ryuji. Ryuji gets all these buffs. Plus you've got this up here from his innate. And it's just a really solid buffing unit. So one I would definitely recommend getting going for your teams as soon as you can. And then again, very good for Blessed teams. So you would put him on your Summer Closer team. The next 2, nothing really here. Belial, it's a cursed unit. You're going to have a better cursed unit, so there's not really much you're going to be using Belial for. And then for Lakshmi, did I say that right? You'll tell me if I didn't. So this one is a single target healing unit, plus they have the AoE Midyarahan. If you need a healer at a high rank, it's not necessarily bad to pick her up. I wouldn't prioritize her. It's kind of like you're in a situation where you don't want to use Wonder a lot for healing. And honestly, and you probably saw this if you watched my challenge video, I prefer running the shields over the heals. Shields just can do so much more for your team, and it's effectively like healing. It's just chipping off of the shields first. But if you need a healer, it's not, a terrible one. I just wouldn't necessarily put a whole bunch of priority into her. But that's it. That's all of the rank 7s. So the ones I really think you should go for, Dionysus is your top priority. Really get him. Your Dominion is another all-rounder. So these 2 are kind of like you can't go wrong building them right away. Then you have to think about your teams a bit. If you're running an electric team like Yui, you're going to want to pick up Thor. If you're running Nuke, then you want to pick up Bishamonten. And if you're running Fox, you want to pick up King Frost. Just keep in mind your coins are limited and they take weeks to accumulate. It's not something you're going to get, a week later because you spent them. So really, make a decision on who you want to spend these on, or if you want to save them. Maybe you just want to wait and see what other ones come out. We're going to have new personas releasing that take those coins. So there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I feel good without these. But my personal thing is I love Makoto, and I'm going to be picking up Bishamonten. Our last 2 over here, we have Koryu. Koryu, I don't know that I've really ever used much. I love the design. I love, fighting him. There's boss fights with him. And he's a good, side damage dealer, so this could come in handy with like the technician trials in the Velvet Room. But as far as what he's doing for your team, it's really not anything you need. And when Haru comes out, Haru will come with a Psy persona. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head. And for your Psy teams, you're going to pick up that persona. So even though he's Psy, you're going to end up with a different one that you're going to want to run on your Haru team. And really, there's just not a good reason to get deep into him just yet. And then finally, one of my favorite personas is actually Alice. Alice is your curse persona. First of all, let's talk about her innate skill, or whatever this is, her signature skill. Increase all foes' curse damage taken by a certain percentage. Increase 1.9% more for every 30% of users' ailment's accuracy, up to 10%. And if the foe's HP is below 50%, chance to insta-kill. This chance to insta-kill is pretty high. I will say that in Velvet Trials, which is where like it really kind of shines, or like things like the Metro, this will definitely kill a lot of things. And you'll be surprised, outside of like Guild Boss, SOS, story bosses, how many things are not immune to instant death. So right off the bat, this is just a really good particular skill. Also, that she comes with Agility Master 4, and so you don't have to worry about speed tuning your Wonder in that regard, because she's already got the best version. And then let's talk about her actual innate. Increase ailment accuracy 34.9%. This helps land things like curses, whatever. Increase foe's curse damage taken 12%. When ally uses curse skills, increase Alice's ailment accuracy and attack 9.1, max 2 stacks up to 2 turns. This extra curse damage taken is huge. So your Joker team is going to love having Alice in their first slot and leading the charge with this particular unit. Once you unlock her, she is going to live with Joker for the rest of your time. It'll be like her and Dionysus, and then maybe you throw like a Yannisek or a Cert. Like Cert gives you like the AoE defense down. So it's a really good unit. I will be building her as soon as I possibly can. I just got to recover some materials. And yeah, I think that she is going to be a high target for anybody that's running a curse team, particularly a Joker team specifically. But that's it. That's who we have for now. If you saw my persona kind of fusion guide, then you know that there's going to be more and more released. You can take a look at that video if you want to get a sneak peek at how many are there in the current version of the game. So just know that this roster is expanding. These are not the final personas you're going to see for the rest of the life cycle of the game. And again, as they come out, as new characters come with them, generally speaking, the ones they come with are kind of like their own best in slot. Maybe not all the time, but definitely frequently. And so we will start talking about them in character guides. So for example, when Haru comes out, I'll talk about the persona that comes at her time, just like I talk about the weapons. So keep an eye out for that. And then maybe once we get a good handful of those going, I'll make a kind of revised endgame guide. A lot of people are starting to get closer and closer to 70. And so maybe in the next month or two, we'll have enough people there that it makes sense to revisit the endgame personas. And then also, if you want, I can talk a little bit more about skill building, because the other thing I mentioned is with these personas, you're not going to be sitting on their base skills that they come with. And even if you look at, for example, some of my personas, if I can actually click on the right thing, you're going to notice that I start inheriting all sorts of things. So like on Yerlinger, I have Rakunda. Or if I look at Kokomutin, you're going to see that I have Rebellion. So there's these things that you can do to really customize your personas. And depending on the fight, you might switch in and out of different skills and passives. So let me know if that interests you and what kind of details you'd like to see on that. But that's it. Those are the personas I think you should look at for 7 and 8, those two that we have. And yeah, that's it. So again, like and sub, help me get to that 10K if you don't mind. And we'll see you on the next video or the next live stream. Take care of yourselves, friends.